cemetery here in Bloomington, which is out towards the airport.
I like this.
I want to ask you, Nathan Gross, who was a longtime member here and moved away, retired, moved away. He was on the cemetery committee for a long time, and he said that to do this, to accompany the dead for burial and that sort of thing, is one of the highest mitzvot you can perform, because it's one of these things that you perform the mitzvot, and that person cannot do anything back for you. Some people do things for people in order to have something in return.
Right.
And is that? Can you speak to that?
That is correct. So from the moment a baby is born, we all come around and we celebrate that baby. Remember, when a baby's born, there is a brit for a boy and a baby naming for a girl. But the whole community gets together. It is a mitzvah to do that. It is a mitzvah, the community to get together when we have a bat mitzvah. It is a mitzvah to make sure that our loved ones, when they die, that they're not alone and that they are taken care of. So that is the highest mitzvah. You're right, because we don't get anything in return. From the moment a person died to the day of the burial or whenever arrangements have been made, that person is supposed to be washed over. And the person who does that is called a shomer, a guard, to make sure. But in this community, we do it ourselves to make sure that it's taken care of. Yeah.
When we do it ourselves, that extends to the point of burying the person. When the person's casket, his burial, is put in the ground, the friends and family will help cover that up.
All the way up.
All the way up. We'll shovel dirt in to help bury that individual. And that's doing a mitzvah. You're doing something to help with no expectation of anything, any thanks or anything in return.
Right. So the mitzvah is called kavod hamet. Kavod hamet. Kavod hamet. To honor the one who has died.
Okay.
From the moment of death to the day that it's buried, and then onward, it is our responsibility to make sure that that person is taken care of with dignity and respect. Okay, so there are many more things that happen, but you need to understand here, you actually hire people can you explain to us when you are informed that there's going to be a burial? I understand that you actually come here and measure what
Yes.
you do.
The committee comes here, measures out the location that's been purchased for the burial, and marks it so the grave digger will know where to dig.
And a grave digger is like one or two people with a shovel.
Not with the shovel any longer. They used to dig the graves by hand. Now they have a small backhoe that he brings in here. The same family's been digging graves here for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
I might also say that we have prayer books buried in, if you want to
Where are
speak to
they?
that. Well,
You put them in the individual.
Yeah, in the grave.
we had permission from the family.
Oh, from the family.
Now, why do you do that?
Maybe the rabbi can speak to that. Burying prayer books.
Why? Okay, so if there are prayer books or religious objects that are no longer kosher, that means that we no longer can lose them. In other words, if there's a prayer book with a tear in it, they have the holy language, the Hebrew, in there, and it's like God's name and very holy prayers. You're not supposed to throw them away because they are holy objects. So the most appropriate thing to do is to bury them. That includes like a talit. If a talit is torn, you can bury that. If a prayer book or paper is torn, or even a Torah that is no longer can be used, it can be buried. Now, what it's called is not only do they put them in the coffin, but we also have what is called a geniza. A geniza is usually a vault that can be available in the cemetery. And the vault is like cement and very like 6 feet down and hollow, and then you can put books in there anytime you want, and then there's like an opening. That's what I've been to in other cemeteries. So I don't know if that's something you have here or not, but that's what we have plenty of books that we can bury, and but that's something, it's called a geniza, and it's a metal the metal thing, you should pull it up and then you put it in.
Okay.
So we do that because we don't throw away holy books. Good question. All right, I need to hear a question from you young folks. You must be curious about something happening here.
Here is the burial place of a woman who died from smoking too many cigarettes. Literally.
Okay, so let's take a moment to look at most of the tombstones. You see the person's name,
What?
and then you see Hebrew. Oh, wait. Hebrew.
About Sid Livingston.
Yes, I mentioned his name.
So
Yes,
you see
yeah, I did.
Hebrew, usually the Hebrew is the name of the person. So it's Sarah Bar Asher. Sarah was her Hebrew name, the daughter of Asher. And then you see the birth. The B stands for birth, September 19, 1924, from Straubing, Germany. Just like what Mr. Stern said, there's a large number of people from Germany and Russia. And then it says the death and the location. So this is normal. This is normal? We're in normal?
Gloomy.
Okay.
Well, we're on the border.
Okay.
But she
Alright.
died in North.
All right. Let's see.
At Brokaw Hospital.
That has more Hebrew on them. And what they have on there is like some psalms, which is taken from the Bible, like honoring like a woman of valor or something.
Why don't you read this stone over here?
Yeah.
Just step over it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just step over the cord. There you go.
Thank you.
Come on over here.
What does this say, Rabbi?
Okay, so it says each Tom. That means he stood upright, and he was pure and stood upright. It's taken from the Psalm. Halakha means he had a heart of pure love, and he was righteous, and he feared God. I mean, he revered. He was respectful to God. All the days of his life, he was righteous with his faith, and he lived. Oh, and then this is his name. He said, Eliezer Ben Tzvi Halevi. Levi. I mean, he came from Levi tribe. But this is taken from the Psalms that we often use during funeral. I think he's based on who lived upright, he was righteous, and was good. That is the Hebrew date of his death that you see. Now,
What
but then
year
they
was
have one for women, and usually it's the woman of valor.
Oh, this is what down here.
And my class, we talked about the Levi tribe. Do you remember?
Okay. That's another man. It's the same teaching on here. The same wording. It's the same wording. But it's just a different font. Okay. And maybe this one.
Is this a Cohen then?
No, Levi.
Okay. We read about the symbols of the different tribes.
Okay, everybody, hey kids, come over here. I want to show you something. You should be familiar with it. Come here, come closer. Come closer. Come closer. Come right here. Come here. Everybody, come on, let's see how good your Hebrew is. What letter is it? What's it? Oh, wait, okay, so where do you see these two words in the synagogue? In the sanctuary. It says the he or, and that means that there be light. Okay, so, and again, this is the same teaching, same saying as all the others, talking about a man, this is a man who had lived righteous. Alright?
What's the oldest marker here?
You're asking me, Mr. Stern, where's the oldest marker here?
Probably in the 1880s.
Where is that? What?
I don't know. Down here you'll
Probably
see
some
some
down-
limestone markers there rather than granite. And the limestone naturally doesn't last as long. They're harder to read.
Sure, yeah, they're becoming, yeah,
If they've been
from the
here
wear
100
and tear
years,
of the
right.
weather. Yeah.
And we had to, several years back, we had to reset some of these older stones because they just deteriorated and they sunk and they fell and
Put them upright.
You did. That's why it's all very important to maintain the cemetery. And sometimes you have to contact the family, and you have to contact the family to let them know that it's the wear and tear.
Did you do that,
or
Harry?
Yes.
Did you do
Probably
that?
Yeah.
no longer here.
But with the perpetual
Harry,
maintenance, we
there's something
usually
over
take-
here. It's limestone, and it's just small, and it's got a G.
Well, there was some system of marking the different sections of the cemetery.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know.
Are they alphabetical or family names or?
I don't know what the scheme was that was
Okay.
used at that time.
Any questions, guys? Okay, so do you have anything to add? Okay, so
We have burials here of mixed religious marriages. People often ask me, can you bury a non-Jewish person in this cemetery? Now, this is consecrated land. The rule I've always operated on, as far as that's concerned, is if your man is Jewish and his wife is not, when his wife dies, any religious ceremonies have to be done elsewhere, and then they can bring the body here and bury them here with their spouse.
did everybody get that? So that means that suppose the spouse is practicing another religion, like a Catholic,
Yes.
so that they would have to go to the Catholic church and do their own service. But once they come to the ground, they ask that no non-Jewish religious rituals take place.
And we haven't had any problem with that. We get that question quite often, but we have not had any problem.
Well, I think you need to understand. Long time ago, there was a notion that only Jewish people can be buried in the cemetery here. But I think you and I know that more and more of our parents and family, they may be married to someone who's not Jewish, but they've made the commitment to raise a Jewish family in any way possible. And how could we not let them be buried with their loved ones who may be here? So it's also the same question for the rabbi. Would the rabbi be, so obviously the statement is that if someone comes to me and asks me if I would do a ceremony for someone who's not Jewish, to do a funeral, probably not. But I can usually say some universal prayers that will be helpful to the people that are still living if they want to do some ritual in here. That would be okay.
Does that hold if the cemetery is run by conservative or Orthodox congregations? This being a very liberal Reform congregation here.
You're asking me whether or not non-Jews are they open to family members that are not Jewish to be buried in their cemetery?
Yes.
From what I know in Los Angeles, I cannot speak for, I can't recall if there's a specific Orthodox cemetery,
Okay.
but there is a cemetery run by the conservative movement. I do believe that they have what they call a special area or section. But because we are open-minded and because we're a small community, we want everybody to feel that they are able to visit their loved ones, no matter what faith.
What does consecrated ground mean?
I'll let you address that.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. From a government point of view?
No, from a religious point of view.
A religious
hold
point
the
of view.
ground.
Okay.
It's the ground that it's
Was there a ceremony that took place, or it's
I
I
just?
wasn't here then.
Okay.
No, I believe what Mr. Stern is saying is this is specifically a Jewish cemetery.
And it's a
Yes,
holy
it is.
And it's a
space.
religious, the expectation is through working with the synagogue It's not a public cemetery that anybody can be buried in.
We had one member of our congregation here, whose name I can't recall right now, of course, that was a Kohanim and he couldn't come onto this property.
Okay.
That was Herb
Yeah,
Lebo.
that-
Well,
Herb Lebo.
Okay.
okay,
That
And
is an
Sam
ancient
Shatan.
tradition.
okay.
Why
I don't-
couldn't you come?
Okay, so guys,
Till.
all right. Okay, so in the much more observant community, in the Orthodox community, they make a distinction between which tribe you're from. So there are three, right? There's the Kohanim, the Cohen, the Levite, and the Israelite. Most of us are Israelites, okay? The Kohanim and the Levite were part of the priest group that maintained the temple during biblical time. Remember, there's no temple right now. Okay, to make a long story short, in the Reform movement, we disregarded that because we are what we call an egalitarian community. Nobody's more important than others. However, there may be certain individuals that feel very strongly about that tradition. The Cohen were considered the most important. They were called the high priest in the temple time. Not the same thing as the Catholic Church priest. And they are not supposed to be in contact with the dead. So what they would do is they would stand outside the perimeter of the cemetery. However, if that person's wife or child died, they have to come in. I believe so, up to a point, and then they step out. In Los Angeles, there's an Orthodox shul that has created a glass window so that the Cohen can participate in the service. But that is not a part of my realm of recognizing. There's no difference into who comes here. But it's very ancient, but there are people who practice that. Good question.
One other thing, how times have changed. The legal name for this cemetery is the Hebrew Burial Grounds. So way back when, we weren't Jewish, we were Hebrews.
Wait, that was a common name, and when did it change?
Well, we just kind of, it hasn't legally.
It has not.
The water bill still comes to the Hebrew Burial Grounds from
Right,
the
yeah,
city of
yeah.
Bloomington.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just call it something.
Some things are better just left alone.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, any other questions or comments you'd like to add? Okay, so we need to do one more thing. We have rocks. So I want you to walk around. It's okay if you don't know the person, but you take a moment and think about, what you're doing. Remember, our faith is based on memory. Okay, it's okay if you don't know the person, but you can look at the person's name, look at the tombstone, and just reflect on your thoughts. But please pick one anywhere in this entire cemetery. So everybody take a rock.
And if you want to see one tomb, they don't have a headstone yet, but if you walk over there on the right, there's one that has a grave that has a lot of rocks already on it to see, so you know that they've been out there quite often.
I need a cut. Is that a cut?